all those people dispersed back to their homes. So when megachurch pastors say, oh, Jesus had the first megachurch, no, he didn't. He just had massive ecclesias coming together sometimes, and then they'd all go back home and they might never see Jesus again. But so what does that mean? It means the home is where all this starts, right? So a great example is a shepherd has to know. So the term pastor literally translates to shepherd. And so just like this guy, he had good intentions. And 50 years later, he's having to ask people for $5 to plaster the wall.
Right.
You know, it's like we've missed the mark. We've built and the LDS church literally calls them temples, but we've built buildings when we were never told to build buildings. Like Christ says, you are the temple, Julian. I am the temple. But we can't seem to get that through our heads. So instead, history repeats itself. We just revert back to what we know, which is let's build a building. Build something. Build like, remember I said at the beginning, we like to build things. We're good at building things.
All right, let's break that down then. How else would you form and organize religion for the right reasons, right? Where you're trying to adhere to actual beliefs. Let's say like it's 200 AD and you really, or let's make it after the Council of Nicaea, it's 400 AD and you really believe in everything that happened to Jesus. You think he's the Son of God. He's this amazing guy and you want to follow this religion. We are naturally communal creatures, which means we want to come around other people who can relate to us on that level, which I think is perfectly fine and literally evolutionarily built into us. How else are you going to do that if you don't have a set place to meet? Which what I'm getting at is, are you going to sit in the park with 4 people and that's where you meet? Or are you going to have a nice private, for lack of a better term here, like safe place to be able to do this? Like how do you... to defend the institution, I guess, I don't see how you get around building a building, whether it be called a church or whatever you want to call it, but building a place where it's like, that's what this is for. I'm not really sure if there's another example of us doing that other than, you know, living outside our IRL on the internet with people where that's the case, which even there you build communities. You might build a Discord or something like that. You know, it's like a virtual building. So how do you get around that?
Well, Christ, one of my favorite lines from megachurch pastors is Jesus had the first megachurch. And it's the stupidest thing ever because there's stories in the Gospels where Jesus, you know, thousands of people would follow him. And so the story of the fish and the loaves, right? I think there's 5,000 people. There was more. That was just the men that they had counted. But there's 5,000 people. So yeah, that's a big gathering.
They didn't count the women and kids?
No.
They just don't count them.
They don't count them back in the day. No. Oh. Like I talked about, right? Culture. And so that is a huge gathering. They were together for 3 days. I think 3 days in the story. And then what happened? All those people dispersed back to their homes. So when megachurch pastors say, oh, Jesus had the first megachurch, no, he didn't. He just had massive ecclesias coming together sometimes, and then they'd all go back home and they might never see Jesus again. But so what does that mean? It means the home is where all this starts, right? So a great example is a shepherd has to know. So the term pastor literally translates to shepherd. And the shepherd has to know their flock. So if you're taking like an animalistic look at shepherd and sheep or shepherd and goat or whatever, you're going to intimately know every one of your sheep. And so when you look at a pastor today, I can't remember what book this is offhand, but you can only know about 100 to 120 people. That's all you'll know, Julian. Okay. Everybody else you won't be able to know. You won't remember their names. Like there's too much information. And so even the biblical number of 100, like, you know, the shepherd will leave the 99 to go find its one. You can only shepherd a very small group of people. You can only pastor a very small group of people. Outside of that,
I see what
you're just saying. A speaker on stage.
Yes.
So we've created massive systems that are hyper expensive, and none of it's biblical.
I think there's a huge difference. Maybe I'm misinterpreting like where you're going with this, but I don't think I am. Like There's a huge difference between being a guest speaker that can inspire people and go around to different crowds and do that versus actually setting up a home base and telling people to join your organization and saying that means you get direct access to you as a pastor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but see, you said it right there, and this is a really interesting point. It's not your organization.
Right.
It wouldn't be mine. Right? Like there is, and again, the guy who told me about the Lev dens blew my mind because I've been working on this for 16 years. And he goes, Nathan, you know there's only one church, right? And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, it's Christ Church. It's Christ Gathering. As soon as you hear someone say, come to my church, you've lost the plot. As soon as you put that name above the door, Ridgeline Church or Gateway Church or you name it, you're a brand. You've
TM on the end.
TM, yeah. You've missed the mark, bro, because now you've created a brand on top of Jesus, which has nothing to do with Christ Church.
Jesus might have had an Instagram. You never know.
Maybe. That's where I tip my hat to the LDS, the Church of Jesus Christ. They get it. They're like, we got to tuck his name into this puppy. Yeah. But it's like we've built brands and institutions. You even say it, organizations. Like we build an organization. Where does it say in the Bible we build an organization? We don't. We just justify the need because we want to build something. Christ Church is an organism. And this is one thing that I love to visualize for people because we see this in today. A lot of pastors want to stand next to President Trump right now. They want that photo up. Paula White, all of them. They're paying money. And we know the business model. They pay money to get to stand next to President Trump and say, I'm part of his evangelical council or whatever, faith council. Okay, when did Christ ever say, you know what? Take me to Rome. I want to talk to Caesar. He didn't give two craps about Caesar. He cared about your heart, Julian. Like he's like, Caesar, do what you're going to do. You know what? Pay the tax. If he's asking for tax, pay the tax. If there's a poll tax, pay it. Stop complaining. Because why? Governments will come and go. But he goes, I care about the heart. He cared about humanity and people. And so what was that early gathering, that early body that transformed Rome? What Christ was an organism. And he even says it. It's a body. I am the head and you are different parts of this body. Each part of the body has a unique purpose. So if it's really an organic, tangible body, it can move through things. It was never meant to be boxed in because it boxes structures, whether that be governments, whether that be, nonprofits, you name it. We build systems, rigid systems. And that body is supposed to be able to move through the systems, if that makes sense. So that's how Christianity transformed Rome. If it was a rugged institutional structure, no one would be picking those kids up off the streets, those orphans and widows. No, we have structure.
Yes.
No, Julian, come in. And this is great about the LDS Church. We're dropping a video today. You need help? Okay, there's structure you have to do if you want my help. If you want our help.
That's what they say in Scientology.
You got to follow the rules. Well, who made those rules? You did.
That's right.
Jesus didn't, you did. And so we've boxed in the organism like to the point where it's chained. I always say it's chained to the pews. We've chained the organism to the pews of the church. Why? Because the church needs your money.
I don't know. I could see how this is something where, let's take, for example, those mega pastors who go in and meet with their political candidate of choice, whoever it may be. I could see where those people, even if they know they're lying to themselves doing it, but I could see those situations where maybe they don't think they're lying to themselves doing it, where they say, well, Jesus didn't worry about Rome and then he got killed. So now that we've built a church around him and we feel like our values are being infringed upon or something, he would want us to go have our political say. And I'm not defending it. I mean, I am a true believer in separation between church and state and a respect in both directions, by the way, when I say that. But like, I could see where that argument gets made there and the context changes because of how how Jesus's life went down, and also how the world works now, where there's mass scale and global governments, and you know what I mean. Like it's a little different. Could you see what I'm talking about?
I know exactly what you're talking about. I think that's very much like human nature and when we analyze things. But when Jesus says, "Pick up the cross and follow me," He meant pick up the cross and follow me. That means mimic his behavior, his actions, his heart. So I think like as humans, we'll be like, we're trying to like, hey, the story could have been a little bit different if Jesus had done this. Maybe we should do this.
A little revisionism.
Yeah. Be like, maybe if he was friends with the Romans, this wouldn't happen, right? So we need to do that. And that's not like at the end of the day, that's not picking up the cross and following him.
Well, and most of those early disciples were killed. I think if you were a bishop, I can't remember the exact year, but for the first 100 to 150 years, you had an 80% chance of being a martyr if you were a bishop.
Yeah, I could see that.
80% chance. That is a horrible business model.
Not great.
If you want something to spread. So
if you make it, you should enjoy your wealth. That's what I'm saying.
Exactly. So when Christ says, pick up your cross, that means everything comes with you, which means your life is no longer in your hands. If you feel led to do something, you will die for that belief. And that's why I said in the beginning, Hell's Angels is more of a religion, in my opinion, than most religions today. Is the Hell's Angels live and die by their creed, and I tip my hat to them. Whether I agree with their moral ethos or not, like they are true to their creed and form of worship. Christians aren't. Dan Bramer in the show says people have faith in their faith in God.
People have faith in their faith in God.
So what I mean by that is I put faith in the institution that I go to, that pastor's working, that the child care is teaching my children right. Because when you put your faith in the God of your faith, dangerous things happen. If I put my faith in Christ, which leads me to Yahweh, you read what those prophets did. Most of them were murdered. Read what like how God had like certain prophets walking out into battlefields where they were coming to kill them. Like and God either protected them or he didn't. Like as soon as you put your faith in the God of your faith, things get real dicey.
Even today though,
would
you say that?
Yeah.
I mean, I totally see the argument, especially like at the beginning of the church, like you're saying, I completely believe that number as well. You had an 80% likelihood to be murked in the early days. But now where something like Christianity is followed by billions of people around the world, to be clear, there are places where people are literally getting killed for that right now. But let me focus on like the United States. It's the most prominent religion here at this time. Like, do people still even have that in their lexicon that like, ooh, if I actually speak out about this deliberately, I could have the guns turned on me? I guess some people
I've got guns turned on me all the time. And I would say I'm trying to live out my faith in my Creator.
Thank you guys for checking out this clip. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe and hit the like button on this video. It is a huge, huge help. And if you'd like to check out this clip's full podcast episode, that link is in the description below or right here. And finally, you can follow me on Instagram and X by using the links in my description below.